Welcome to my kitchen. It is my workspace. It's where I spend a good majority of my time. The kitchen table represents so much to me. It's where I dine. It's where I enter into community. It's where I create. So when we're talking easy appetizers for Easter, let's look to the obvious. You're going to have, if you have kids, you're going to have kids looking for Easter eggs. What are you going to do with those Easter eggs when you're done? Might I suggest using what you have and taking those Easter eggs and making some deviled eggs. They are super delicious. They are full of protein, and this is one of the easiest and can be made really fancy appetizers. It's a great snack. It's great, to tie you over until you actually have your meal. So what we're gonna do is we're going to look at two different ways to make deviled eggs. There's going to be your standard version, which you can fancy up a bit. And then there's going to be an enhanced version, which is a pickled beet recipe that gives a little color and makes it a little bit fun. So to begin, let's start with our standard deviled egg recipe. Today I'm going to be using a recipe that I got from Downshiftology. It's a great blog. She has a lot of great ideas. And so we'll start with our eggs. So most of you are already going to have your eggs boiled and done, and they'll probably be colored, so you'll need to peel them. For those people who are not doing Easter eggs, then you can start with either boiling your standard egg, or you can start with your organic pre-boiled, pre-peeled eggs that you can get from Costco. These are great because half of the work is already done for you. So I am going to take 3 eggs, and I'm going to, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off on the bottom side of the egg. I'm going to trim off just a hair on the bottom. And what this does is, I don't know if you've seen trying to place an egg on a platter when you're trying to plate them, because of the shape, they always sit wobbly. And so if you just trim a bit off of the bottom, it'll actually help your egg sit nicely. So I always start with that first before I do anything. So I've done that, usually just a standard knife. Mine happens to be serrated because that's what I have, but you're gonna cut your eggs just in half. So I'm gonna do 3. The recipe actually calls for 6, but I'm gonna be making 2 versions, and we don't need that many. So now what you want to do is you wanna take your eggs and you need to get rid of the inside filling, that yolk part. So all you'll need to do is have a bowl handy. And for this, usually what I do is I just take, it typically comes out pretty easily, but I'll just take a spoon for now. And often what I'll do is I'll just squeeze, I kind of pull it apart and see how it's like, if they're nice and cold, that yolk is gonna come out pretty seamlessly. See how it's already coming out? So I'm just gonna pull the yolk out of all of them. And I usually get the majority out. Sometimes there's still yolk that gets stuck on the inside, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's just gonna be filled in anyways. So here I have all of my eggs. The inside has been taken out. I'll show you that there. And I'm going to just set them aside really quick. And I'm gonna start mixing up these yolks that I have to make the actual filler, that deviled egg part inside. So let's get going with this. Okay, So some of the ingredients we're gonna need is a mayonnaise. Here I have a vegan mayonnaise, which is funny because mayonnaise is eggs and I'm putting it in eggs, but whatever. It's what I have. Then you're gonna need a Dijon mustard. I usually use a whole grain Dijon mustard. I like it. I like that texture in it. It makes it feel a little bit different. If you prefer a really smooth, silky interior on your egg, just use standard Dijon. It's great. A way to enhance a standard is to use flavored mustard. I happen to have some of Mustard & Co., which is a great company here in Ballard. They make all sorts of really delicious mustards. They have partnered with Social Creative in the past, and they're always at different pop-up shops. If you ever see it, grab one. They're a great thing to have on hand. You're going to need apple cider vinegar, and then just your regular salt and pepper. And then you can finish it off with paprika. So those are some of the ingredients that you'll have. And I'll do my best to link this particular recipe that I'm using. Never met a deviled egg recipe I didn't like. So, and once you get that recipe, that's yours to play around with flavor. So you can, taste here and there and add different ingredients as you want to. So that's the fun of being an at-home cook, right? So here I have just printed out my recipe. And because I'm gonna half my recipe, I'm gonna need my eggs, which I have, my mayonnaise, my Dijon mustard, apple cider vinegar, salt and pepper, and my paprika for the finish. So I have my egg yolks already in here. I'm going to take my Dijon. I think for today, I'll just do a regular Dijon because I'm gonna feed these ones to my kids. So what we're gonna need is 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. For mine, because I'm gonna half it, I'm just gonna do 1.5 tablespoons. So I have 1, and I sort of use the glob blob method. I'm sure you have parents who also use that method, so it's not super exact, but 1.5 tablespoons. And then I'm gonna do a half teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I am going to use just a regular Dijon today because my kids are gonna be eating these and they are not one for fancy food. And I think the whole grain in this Dijon is fancy enough for them. So we're gonna do a half teaspoon of the Dijon in here. I can literally hear my children fighting downstairs. So, and then we're gonna do a half teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. Gives it that little zing of flavor. Boop. And then it's salt and pepper to taste. I always use kosher salt, but you can use fine sea salt as well. Just give this a couple of shakes, and then I've got my kosher salt right here. Just a pinch, usually what I start with. Okay, so then you're gonna take your fork and you're just gonna mash it up. Just like, so this is gonna get it about as mashed as you can with a fork. I've also done it in, I've done it all sorts of different ways to try and get it smoother. I've done it in a processor, a food processor. I have sort of riced it so that it gets super smooth. But since I'm only feeding my family on Easter, I'm not doing this for a big group of people. They're not gonna have any comments back to me. Well, they actually will have comments back to me. And I will just kindly disregard them. That's what I will do. Okay, so there we have. I'm gonna that is exactly where I want it. I prefer that Dijon like kick. So that's where I want it. I feel like there's enough salt and pepper in there. So we are good to go. Okay, so then the next thing you are going to do is you have to get this filler into your eggs. So I have done it many different ways. You can spoon it in, just with a standard spoon. You kind of scoop it in. Oftentimes I'll use like a tablespoon or a teaspoon because it's a little bit, you know, it's almost the right amount, and you can do about 2 globs. So you want to put your filling, either you can use a spoon or you can use a pastry bag. I just looked, and because I haven't been going to the grocery store as often, I don't have a pastry bag on hand. So I cannot pipe it in with a pastry bag, but I did receive this cookie frosting thingy. I'll just call it a thingy. I don't know what it is, but it distributes the frosting on, and it's squeezy, and I've actually used this for other things, so I think I might just give this a go, and we'll see. I like to be able to like kind of swirl it in, or with a piping bag with the different tips that you use, you can you know, kind of make it a little bit more fancy. But this video is all about use what you have. So, okay, so there's one of my eggs, and I'm just gonna fill it in. And when I'm squeezing, I usually kind of apply pressure on the inside and just build. And there you go. There is one egg. Again, I'm sure all of you have made deviled eggs already, but for those who haven't, it's a great little appetizer. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, so here we have our eggs. 2 eggs, that's enough. 2 eggs plated. And the way you can finish them off is either by using paprika, or I saw fennel seed. Paprika is usually standard for an egg, but so you can use paprika to finish it off. Then you can also take some chives, and for chives you can either cut them up, you can rough chop them. I'm just gonna take a couple off the top, a couple pieces off the top, just tear them, kind of sprinkle them about. And there you have it. You have your eggs. So the nice thing about these as well is if you're not going to do them that day, you can do them ahead of time. They'll keep for about 2 days. I do think that they're best fresh, but there is our egg. So yummy. I actually might just eat this. I'll save it. I'll save it. I'll save it. Right, buddy?